Hey folks, Evil Pajamas here, and in this Civilization 6 video, I'm going to be sharing how to quickly set up and close out a deity difficulty level religious victory with Babylon. So hopefully with some luck, if you're watching this video and you're having trouble getting a religious victory on deity difficulty settings, this will help you out and you can replicate this strategy. So what we're going to do is we are going to start at the end, just so that you can see roughly sort of how we ended up. So what we're going to want to do is sort of take a look at some of the key points here. So you can see at the end I have this real big spike up in faith per turn being generated, and that is because at some point you are going to see the AI fall off on being able to push back when you are pressing in with your apostles. So when you see a lack of resistance on their part, that they're not bringing out nearly as many religious units, at that point, if you are down to the last civ or maybe even two civs as far as AI, and you are not in you're not in a real difficult spot for military, you really want to crank out as much faith as you can and just go for the jugular, crank out as many apostles as you can, and finish it off while they are not resisting as much. So once you sense that, I would even go for the holy site projects and just push out as much faith as you can. So that's why you can see I have this big ramp up here at the end. You want to go for the finish there and not drag the game on. So obviously you do need to still survive on the deity setting and not be overrun by the AI. So you want to take we'll take a look at some of these other things. So you can see that I captured about looks like it would be about 7 cities during play. So was able to hold my own there. Didn't lose any cities because I had quite a few cities. Then like I was outpacing the AI on districts, and culture's not going to be a huge concern there. Obviously, you need it for the techs. Um, this is total gold, so that's not like a real great reflection. But you can see, I mean, it wasn't a completely passive game. It looked like I declared, or I was declared war on 4 times, and I declared war, it looks to be about twice. So you can see, I mean, you don't just go all in on religion. I didn't outpace the AI that much on wonders, but I was near the top. I was tied uh, with Byzantine there. So you can see you still need a pretty balanced game, but obviously you're going to focus on cranking out as much faith as you can. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the map state looked like at the end of the game. If you enjoyed the content, please do consider liking and subscribing. So this is the closest save that I have to the end of the game, so that you can see how the map sort of looked at the end of the game. So this was a continents map, and uh, just to show you, we are on deity difficulty here. It is again a continents map and with 4 AIs. So you're probably noticing, well, there's only 3 colors besides yours there, bro. So it's a 4 AI as well. Obviously, 1 player got eliminated. My nearest neighbor was Persia, as you can see from the city names here, and I went ahead and eliminated that player. The opponents for the AI this time, they were random, but I ended up with Gaul, Persia, um, whoever Saladin leads. I think maybe that's Arabia, sorry, and then Byzantine. So you can see those are actually pretty aggressive leaders. So they can overrun you pretty early. So I opted to quickly go after Persia, being my nearest neighbor, just because they prefer surprise wars. But let's just go ahead and go through and take a look where we ended up. So here's where we are. on the tech tree. Obviously, everyone knows that Babylon is very strong on tech. So on turn 23, we are up towards the front here, or at least in the running, just about where everybody else is on tech, as you can see. A little bit ahead of Byzantine and Gaul, and about the same as where Saladin is. So this gives us the ability to field at least an equal military to the AI. Uh, I used Theocracy throughout the whole game, so I had a very limited amount of cards. So I wanted to keep my money up, so I had like a fairly large army out in the field. So I kept the maintenance card, which is a very low level card. And then I was having a little bit of issue with loyalty, and the reason for that is because this game was set with secret societies and dramatic ages mode. So if you're not familiar with dramatic ages mode, it only has dark ages and golden ages, and if you hit a dark age, like the first time I saw it, I wasn't really expecting it. Like a whole bunch of your cities will just flip immediately to being in rebellion. So that's a bad surprise if you weren't ready for that. Um, so I'm still using the really old Holy Site adjacency bonuses for the economic policies, and then I have the Suzerain boost card for this diplomacy, and then the +10 production towards industrial area at later wonders, and then campus districts science bonus counts towards production. So quick to go through these. I used these bonuses to faith production pretty much throughout most of the game, and the reason for that is my faith production is extremely high, and I selected the work ethic belief, where Holy Site District's faith adjacency bonus provides production as well. And then, as you recall, I did select that card as well that did that for science. So with that, you can see Babylon, my capital here, is generating almost 70 faith a turn and 92 production. So it's getting a very high output, so you can get whatever you want built very quickly using that card setup if you have good adjacency bonuses. So if you look and see, so my holy site, which I started, which was actually the first thing I built in this game, my holy site is located right here. So you can see that it's got a solid adjacency bonus. And I don't know why that's not showing the so it's only actually getting 2 from the adjacent mountain tiles. So, but early on with that, that's going to be significant with the extra production bonus, and then obviously doubling that output. So there you can see I'm getting 92 production and almost 70 faith. So those are the things that are key. Obviously, you're going to focus on Eureka's for science with Babylon, so the science production itself is not going to be as big of a deal. If we look at the overview of my total cities, my total city yield, so there's what Babylon looks like. And then if we look at my other cities, my second city is 40 and 44. So 30 and 2, this one's not really generating any faith. So you can see I have a few cities that aren't doing much, but they aren't really central to my faith production. This one's got 40 and 44, which is pretty good. But you just need a couple of cities that really anchor that faith. So Parsagrad is one that I took from Persia. It's got a pretty solid production there. So the thing that you also want to remember with the way that Babylon functions is that if you go aggressively early game and take over a city that has some things that you haven't built yet in the tech tree, you are going to instantly trigger any Eurekas that use as a dependency that like having built that particular structure. So that's a big boon to sort of being aggressive early and maybe thinking about taking a city there. So that's the setup I used for this. I used Pingala here, obviously, even though that's science and culture. I think it's just the biggest boost you can get there. So if we take a look at the religion map, you can see. So I've got control here of my area, obviously, and then what I like to do is the closest area is the one I like to convert second to last. And the reason for that is if they come back and straggle back and let's say they're not very big, they're not a large empire, and then they convert a couple of the cities back, you don't want to get caught in a spot where you have to go back and then redo a lot of work on a civ that's farther away. So what ended up happening here is because of the dramatic ages and the dark age that triggered, all of these four cities actually all went into rebellion for Gaul. So cutting his empire size in about half. So so that obviously had a pretty big impact there. So you can see I already went ahead and I like to just stamp out like completely their religion if I can, so that way I don't have to worry about them coming back and having to clean up stuff too much. So obviously they might have an apostle or something running around, and there's nothing you can do about that. But here, I mean, you could run around and search for it, but it's not really worth the time. So with Byzantine, I had a friendly relationship with them, and was able to fairly quickly grab all of these cities up. And then you can see here that this was actually the last target civilization. So since we're towards the end here, the closest civilization is the one I had to go back and redo. But the technical last one that I converted was the farther away civilization here, Saladin. And like because of that leader type, they obviously have a little bit more bias towards religion and will be a little bit more difficult to take in that regards. So I think regardless of what strategy you're playing, you always want to focus on keeping up suzerain status. I think the bonuses are great. You can see that I have a lot of envoys. The the key one that you're going to want to remember early on for religious victory is you're going to want to keep control of this Yerevan city state if it is in play, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, when you get down to one charge on your apostles, you're going to want to not spend that charge if possible, and just sort of use them as basically bodyguards for your other religious units. So when they're down to one charge, I prefer to always take the plus 20 to religious combat, and then obviously I ran theocracy throughout the whole game. So if you have that plus 20 to religious combat, and you're taking that on at least the first 3 or 4 religious units, and then just not consuming that last charge, you'll be able to pick up a lot of free conversions by just eliminating the AI players' religious units with your units that only have one charge left on them. So the that's I think that is key to maintain control of that and have control of what you want to select on your apostles. So I won't go through a lot of the other bonuses with these because they aren't real integral to the strategy. I mean, it's integral to control them, as many of them as you can, but there's not any bonus in particular that I was really leveraging there. So that is basically the strategy, but I'm going to rewind to an earlier turn, like much earlier in the game, just to sort of show where we sort of took over Persia's area. All right, so this is turn 70 right before setting up to go to war with Persia. So you can see this is very early in the game, and I have 3 cities out. So my starting capital of Babylon, and then 2 satellite cities. So I was able to pick up, I only had to construct a settler for one of these and got the other one for free because I was able to get the Pantheon that gives you a free settler, which the AI usually selects that very quickly. So you have to really push the faith generation. So I obviously was able to do that because I put down a very quick holy site and was the first to meet on Yerevan. So that really set up that strategy there. Um, so you can see when I'm going in against Persia here, I don't have like an overwhelming force here, but I do have. So I think that what you want is a strong hero. This is probably not the one I would have taken necessarily, but I just went with what I thought would be okay for battle. So I mean, 26 is, but it has a 40 range strength, which is pretty strong. If you look in comparison, a regular archer has 25 range strength. So I've set up here, so I haven't triggered a complaint yet by Persia because I'm far enough away from the city that they aren't trying to force me to declare war. So, so I can come in here and then, I never really checked actually when I did this. So Cyrus loves surprise wars, but I don't know. I'm gonna see if he is okay. So he's displeased by my failure to declare a surprise war. So let's see if he actually likes it if you declare a surprise war on him. I've never actually checked this. So, doesn't look like it. So it doesn't help you to declare a surprise war on him. He likes surprise wars, but only if you declare them on somebody else. So as you can see, he has 2 suzerain statuses. If I wanted, I could cancel out the Mexico City one, which actually, when I played this, I did do that immediately because this archer was in my way. So I did that and immediately picked up that. There is. So, and actually, you should always, if you are going to do that, you want to wait until after you declare war. So, because the reason is because you'll get this extra era score bonus for doing that. So, so now they have a good amount of units here, which is obviously gonna help out my push a ton. So now I can come in here. I'll get a free worker out of this. And now I can come in and set up all my archers. So Tarsus is pretty vulnerable because he's got, as you can see, he's got mostly melee units here. So that's pretty favorable for me because I have range and they have several hexes of distance. Plus I have the suzerain status on Mexico City, which is adjacent here. So, obviously, since I just loaded back up this game, I'm not entirely sure what I was in the process of doing. I was probably likely coming up here to build this mine up here. But, so you can usually, at least, you're going to get into pillage or get 1 or 2 cities. So they actually fell back here. So the whole point to why I'm showing this part basically is that if you can keep up and get a military advantage early on, you can take a city that as I mentioned, that has text that you don't already have, and thus trigger additional Eurekas off of taking the military action. I think that is a early aggression, and picking up Eurekas that way is actually a really good facilitator for Babylon, regardless of what strategy you're playing. So, at any rate, so that's what it sort of looked like early game. You can see I was not, I was ahead on science. I hadn't really met anybody, so it's hard to tell here, but I was, my military strength is behind, even though I'm initiating. Like Persia actually has a slightly stronger force than me at this time, but I think I have a better setup force, and I was set up for this fight. Um, so yeah, so that's a little peek at what you're going to want to do in the early game strategy to sort of set up that late game.